Perfect. So I wanted to introduce there on this call are hosts, and then there are people that have volunteered to help host, which right now we're calling them host buddies. And we are very happy that you took the time today to come. We do have a panel of four hosts, four volunteers, four kind people that have offered to share a bit of their experience, all at different stages in the hosting process. We also have Isaiah Ritzman. Isaiah is from an organization called Open Homes, and some of you may remember him. We had April 7th, we had a info night for hosts, and some of Isaiah's host families that are in his organization shared their experience. That video is available on YouTube. Very helpful, very good insight. And Isaiah has graciously joined us today. Thank you so much, Isaiah. So like I said, we have hosts on the call and we have people that are host buddies. I think it will be a very beneficial, all the information that's shared so that we're getting a really big picture of what's happening, because we can plan and then we have to change what we're doing, or we have to expect the unexpected, and just really be patient and reach out if you need help or if you have any questions. I think I will start with, I just want to share something. We have a family that's hosting some Ukrainians. They're her family, and her family are Ukrainian, and they shared a thank you note to our group. And I just want to read a piece of it, which really kind of struck me, because we know Ukrainians are coming through a channel that doesn't really give them access to the housing piece. So we do know they can access settlement agencies like Settlement Resources at the YMCA or Reception House or Multicultural Center. The government has given them that. The government has promised some other gives. We're still waiting for information on that. But what these Ukrainians said were, due to hostilities in Ukraine, we had to seek shelter in Canada. Our situation is different from other immigrants coming to Canada. We went without long-term preparation and did not study English, did not save money for tickets. We didn't save money for accommodations. We did not choose a province for climate or our employer. She went on to thank our organization, but for me, that really hit home again, how when we say they're displaced, they're coming here without planning to. And so all the work that you're doing and putting in is just so valuable. So thank you again so much for coming. So right now I'm going to introduce our first host, and they're going to just share a couple minutes of their experience. And then after everybody's done sharing, there will be a question and answer period at the end. So it's pretty simple and straightforward. So first I want to introduce Mallory. I think she prefers Mal. And do I see her on the call? Yes,
Yeah,
there's, oh, hi, Mal.
Hi.
Yeah, so without further ado, Mal, I'm just going to let you introduce yourself and tell us a bit about what's going on.
Sure. Yeah, my name is Mallory, but all my friends call me Mal, so you guys can call me Mal too. And I live in Elmira with my family, my husband and I, and we have two kids, a 4-year-old and a 9-year-old. My husband is Ukrainian, so when all of this started happening, we felt compelled to help, but we weren't exactly sure how. And then we found this group. I think around the first week of March. So I've been involved with Water the Region Grassroots Response, helping out where I can with communications and marketing, as well as on the donations team. So I guess, yeah, not too long after that, we were kind of matched up with somebody who was coming here. It was a friend of somebody else who's involved with WRGR, and she was looking to come here with her son. So, and then another gentleman, Mike, who's working with our group too, had said that he really wanted to help her come here, but he just wasn't able to accommodate her at his home. So we raised our hand for that, and the woman, she's 52 years old, and she's coming with her 6-year-old son. They were living in Mykolaiv and saw some explosions, and obviously we've seen the news, things that are happening in that area, and that's a lot for her to have seen, and for her 6-year-old to have seen and experienced. So they did ultimately decide to leave, and they took a train from Odessa into Slovakia. They were in Slovakia for a little while, living with a family, and it was as a husband and a wife. They had no children, and they ultimately decided to leave because the family they were living with, they had no children, and they found having a 6-year-old boy was pretty disruptive to their everyday lives, and so they just kind of agreed to move on. The family, the couple that they were living with as well, was very religious, and that also just wasn't a great match for this woman and her son. So right now they're living in a town just south of Prague in Czech Republic, and they're staying in a women's shelter. They're quite happy there, but still waiting for their visa. So I'm probably different in terms of the other people who are speaking. I think they already have their families here, but we've been going through this process with the mom for probably a good 6 or 7 weeks, just waiting for all of the paperwork and the passports to get stamped and all of that stuff. But it's been really helpful to have Mike. He's local here, so been chatting a lot with him, and in a sense, he's kind of like my buddy, and this woman's buddy as well, as we try to figure out all of the paperwork and things that are needed, and getting her from Prague to Vienna to get her biometrics done and things like that. And then once they do arrive, he'll probably act as a buddy in terms of helping her drive around. And of course, we'll be there to do those kinds of things too. But it is nice to just know that you have someone to bounce ideas off of and help shoulder the load and stuff. So it's great for the Ukrainians to have buddies, and for hosts to have buddies as well. So it's just lots of little things to keep in mind that you try to anticipate. If you're lucky enough to have time like we've tried to anticipate as much as possible. But even just today, when I saw Lisa's email, I was like, oh, I wonder if they'll have to quarantine when they get there and get here. And then if they have to quarantine, do we have to quarantine? And so it is very helpful to have at least one other person or 2 other people that you can bounce ideas off of. So that's my experience. We're hoping that she'll arrive in the next couple of weeks, and then I might have more information for you as to what it's been like after the fact. But
Thank you so much, Mallory. I know we had a housing meeting at the very beginning, and you were sharing some of your preparations, which we found very helpful. Also, matching is key, and I think we took that away from you and our other meeting. Really important that you're asking questions, and what you just said with your family, you're not having a great experience with their first host family. So if you are thinking of hosting, it's really important to put all your cards on the table right away. And the fact that you've been waiting for a month, and you were expecting them to come sooner. So that's, where the patience and anticipation and everything comes in. So just expect that. Thank you very much, Mel, for sharing that. Next, I'd like to ask B, if you could share your experience, please.
Hi, can you hear me? Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. So I'm B. Thiessen. This is my husband, Steve Thiessen. 3 weeks ago, we had made a decision that that we wanted to host a Ukrainian family. Like all of you, hearing the news and the devastation and everything, it just felt like we really wanted to do something. So I posted something on one of the Facebook groups. I heard from someone within a couple of hours who asked if we were interested in a family that she'd been speaking to, and we got connected within hours of posting something. And 3 weeks later, we picked up our family from the airport, and that was on Thursday. So it all happened very, very quickly. So our family's been here since Thursday, and we didn't do a lot of checks or screening. We kind of just took a leap of faith and decided it felt right. We had a couple video calls with our family. It felt right. We got along well with them on the video calls. Myself and Elena, the mom, we chatted every day, and so we just went with it. So not a lot of pre-planning, but it all worked out so far. And maybe my husband wants to add.
Just to add a couple things. I don't think that B said. So we have a mom and a dad and 2 boys. The 2 boys are 7 and 9. If you guys don't mind, we'll turn over, and mom and dad are right here. They can say hello.
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 There's mom and dad there.
Thank you. It's so nice to see them.
And it's been a bit of a, just a challenge because like, as far as getting along, I think we get along very, very well, but there's used to be, I heard somebody mention the quarantine. Well, the boys are young and they want to go out and play, and they don't understand that they can't go out and play. So that's a little hard. We're learning how to eat. Our foods are a little different, but last night we had a good meal. Tonight, Elena has made us borscht for tonight's supper. We're anxious to have that tonight.
Yes. Yeah.
And just actually, when you talk about buddies, it's been really good. We are learning a lot. It's been easy because Maddie and Elena had their papers to come to Canada, but when they get here, there's a lot that we don't know as far as getting social insurance numbers, getting them signed up for health care. Just a couple hours ago, somebody else from this community donated a bicycle for one of the boys. So that was kind of nice. We're looking for one more bicycle still, but very exciting on that front. So I guess that's maybe where it's at. Everything's going very well for us so far. And we'll see how the adventure goes over the next little while.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. I know I got to talk to Bea this morning, and she said some things that, one thing, Bea, if you wanted to share what you had said about how would you feel, do you mind just sharing that?
My husband and I talked, and we just said, if it was our country and if it was us being bombed, I sure hope someone would step up and help us. And if that's what we hope, how can we not do the same thing? And to us, it was like, you know what? It's easy to live just the 2 of us. We raised 4 kids here, and sure, things are different when you have a family, but it just felt like it was the right thing to do. And that's,
it's the right thing to do also for our neighborhood. Not everybody can have somebody, because maybe they still have kids, they don't have the extra rooms or whatever, but our whole street super excited to have the family come in, and they're really trying to be a part of it, donating, food or toys, or we got a bed from somebody, and everybody's excited for when the 2 weeks are over so we can have a little party and formally introduce everyone. So
we had a little boy in the neighborhood. We have a lot of young kids in the neighborhood, mostly girls. We had a little boy come over who is before they arrived, who said that he's very much looking forward to becoming friends and having more boys to play with.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, wonderful story. We hope we can have these meetings once a month at least, and we can get updates on everything. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Okay, our next speaker, I'm going to go to Helen, and I will just tell you, Helen and I, we've been talking for a few weeks, and Helen did a CBC radio interview on Fresh Air. Maybe some of you heard it, where she shared her experience, and she's with us today to just give us tell us her story. So Helen, go ahead. I'm gonna look for, are you able to unmute? There you go.
Yeah, I'm using a cell phone. So when you said use the mouse, I went, anyway, my name is Helen Senza. I'm from a farm not far from Brantford But my parents is the real reason why I wanted to host a family, because my father came from Ukraine with his father, traveled during the war into West Germany. And then he met my mother in the West German side, and they had a child in West Germany. And then my dad wanted to own land. And so he came across with his father to Winnipeg. And then 6 months later, my mom came over with a 6-month-old baby in her arms alone. And she came across, and my dad met her in Halifax. And then they decided that Winnipeg was a little bit too cold for my dad's liking. He wanted to have a farm. He wanted to raise his children on a farm. And so they eventually settled just a little ways away from Scotland, Ontario. I don't know if you know that on Highway 24 as you're going down to Dover. It's not far from there. So I got involved when I was watching the CNN news and watched a program where there was an interview done by a gentleman, a young gentleman. He was a student of Harvard Law, and about 15 of them got together and created a website, which is called ukrainetakeshelter.com. Now that website is actually for refugees or for hosts. And what I did is I signed up because I saw that there was nobody in Canada had signed up yet. It was very early. I'd only seen the program 2 days earlier, was very excited that there was such a thing. And so I signed my own home up. I had 2 bedrooms, spare bedrooms in my home. I live in Cambridge, Ontario. And I had a response of 2 people who responded. They wanted money. And I said, no, I don't do money. I do housing. And they sort of disappeared. But one woman found out later, she was 23. Ida is her name. And she joined on WhatsApp. And that was how we communicated with each other through a translate program on her end as Google Translate. So she was quite familiar with it, and we could correspond back and forth. Just a little bit of a delay as she would copy paste the words that I had in English into her side, and then she would respond back in English to me. So that's how we communicated. I think that some of the experience I've had, they arrived April 11th. I probably got to know them about a week prior to them arriving. They had a long lineups for documentation, as you could well imagine, in Poland. She was in Warsaw, and Warsaw took the majority of the people from Ukraine and housed them in their city. And so they were lucky enough to find a host home. And so we talked back and forth, sent some photos back and forth, got to know each other a little bit. It's her mother and her that were fleeing Ukraine. They were from the Odessa area. And they arrived in Warsaw and started to work on paperwork to immigrate to Canada. So once they indicated their ticket, then I knew that I could pick them up from the airport. So my sister and I went. I speak Ukrainian. I was raised speaking Ukrainian, although it's very rusty and my grammar is horrible. But between my sister and I, we could communicate with the group. And then any words that we didn't know in Ukrainian, because we just basically had conversational Ukrainian background, we would use the translate program. So I would put in the word and Google Translate would transfer it into Ukrainian for them. So that's how we would communicate, mostly in Ukrainian. And then I would encourage you all, Duolingo is fantastic. I heard about it after they had arrived, and I would encourage anyone that has anybody coming to use that program to learn English before they arrive here. They'll get a few basic words. They might get some sentences together, but it just makes them feel a little bit better that they have some of that background already. Now, the information resources that I had, I was brand new to this. I didn't even know there were groups that were involved in taking in people, and the grassroots paper article is what I kept actually from the Cambridge Times that I got, and I still have it, and I have it saved there as just a wow kind of. So many volunteers are helping, and I was encouraged by that. I think there are a lot more people that are going to be coming over. I think, Lisa, you were telling me of at least, I think I heard the number 40 families by the end of May. And I don't know, how that's going to go with bringing all those people here. My guests ended up actually going to the States. They knew somebody in Brooklyn, New York. And so even before their quarantine period was done, they had left and I arranged their buses and things like that so that they could arrive in a country where basically they still didn't know English, but they were a little better off than they were when they first arrived. The resources that are available here seem to be mostly documentation resources that our government has provided, but they really haven't done anything as far as housing goes. While I say that, I will bring up that I have, after my radio interview, managed to get an interview time or a talk time with MP Brian May. And I have a time at 10:30 tomorrow where I'll be asking him, what are the resources that Canada is going to provide to the fleeing Ukrainians that they're welcoming into Canada. Canada has the third largest Ukrainian speaking population in the world. Only Russia and Ukraine is higher. And there really wasn't anything that I could see happening. I have called a few resources as far as what they could do. And really everybody keeps saying no housing is provided. So everybody's counting on volunteers to house people in their homes all across Canada. And the refugees are the ones trying to find locations here in Canada. So I see that as a real roadblock to how do you handle that many people? And that hasn't even included, from my understanding, there are charters coming over with Ukrainian people. So that will be one of my questions for Brian May, is what has been made as an accommodation for an entire charter plane of Ukrainians landing? And I don't know that they have housing.
So Helen, I'm actually just going to stop you there. We are at 4:28. I do want to, there will be a question and answer period after, and Helen will be a part of that if we have some. I just want to also thank you so much. A lot of good information. Helen did share as well that she gets a lot of support from YMCA. They have a settlement, I'm not sure what they're called, settlement workers within their organization. And also one thing she did say is if you're looking at the social insurance number, it really probably is best to go in person to those offices, because you want to get that paper done right the first time, because when that paper is done wrong, they will just get a letter in the mail, which could take up to 3 weeks of delivery saying, hey, you didn't fill out the app right. So
yeah.
Thank you, Helen. So I'm going to go on to Isaiah. Isaiah is from Open Homes. Like I said, it's an organization in Waterloo region. And Isaiah, I know you shared some interesting and exciting webinars that are coming up. I don't know if you could share that. And also if you had any just quick tips for either the hosts or the people supporting the host buddies, if you could share that with us now before we go to the Q&A. Thank you, Isaiah.
Let me just unmute myself here. So it's exciting to be here again. I love hearing stories of folks who are hosting. It's really beautiful when you're first opening up your home. For those of you who might not know, I'm part of a community in Kitchener-Waterloo called Open Homes. We're smaller. We're about 20 families who have hosted refugees in their own home, many for a number of years from all over the world. And so it's really beautiful to see more and more people do this type of hospitality work for refugees. So I did want to share, and I think Waterloo Region Grassroots might put this out through their communications, emails and things like that, that Open Homes Waterloo Region and Open Homes Hamilton is hosting an online workshop on Monday, May 9th from 7:30 to 9, where we'll be exploring the fundamentals of hosting, both with experienced hosts, and just talk about sort of the top 10 things to think about when you're hosting. Now, both Open Homes Waterloo Region and Open Homes Hamilton primarily work with refugee claimants, but a lot of what we're talking about in terms of hosting is applicable across the board. So you're all welcome to come to that Monday, May 9th from 7:30 to 9. And I'm sure we can find a way for your group to get that link. In terms of the Host Buddy program, so with Open Homes, aside from these 20 host families, we also have about maybe 30 other volunteers who we call partner circle volunteers. And so when a guest is matched with a host, we also create a circle of support, about 3 volunteers who are there to help the guest become friends with the guest, that kind of thing. And one of the things we talk about is, aside from like the practical supports, driving to a bank appointment, helping to orient to get groceries and that kind of thing, there's also just the simple offer of friendship and relationship. And so if you're a host, that's going to come really naturally and easily because the person will be in your home. But what we've learned is in Canadian society, when we're used to volunteering, we're used to volunteering in a box. You know, we're volunteering from 7 to 9 tonight, and we're doing these specific things. And just the idea of like making yourself available for cross-cultural friendship, that is actually really different from doing something specific. So for those of you who are considering to be part of like this Host Buddy program or the Buddy program, and thinking about just becoming available as a friend, it's a very different type of volunteering than the volunteering we're used to in our society. So I just wanted to sort of put that out there, that you're not so much offering specific help, although that will come, but you're more offering yourself as a friend, as a community member, and that's a different sort of thing. And so just be open to newness, to surprise. It's going to look different depending on what people want. Some people will want friends more than others, and just be open to that kind of shift. So that's sort of the advice I would give on that. And the final thing I'd want to say, and I mentioned this, I guess like 3 or 4 weeks ago when I last spoke with you guys, I just really encourage you folks who are hosting for the first time now, just to ponder and consider, is this something you want to do long-term? So within the Open Homes community, people who host will often host for 4 or 5 months. They'll take a break for 2 or 3 months, and then they'll host again. And we've had families who in the past 10 years have hosted 30 refugee families just in their own home over the course of 10 years. The need for refugee housing isn't going to go away. It's not just going to be for folks from Ukraine. This is going to be a long-term challenge in Canadian society. So I just invite you to consider whether hosting is something you want to make a long-term commitment. So that's all I'll say for now, but hopefully I'm here too for Q&A.
Thank you, Isaiah. Always good to hear from you. The Ukrainian crisis is here, and it's forefront, and sometimes these things die down, right? And so we don't want, as Isaiah said, the need for housing for anybody in this world. It's so important. It's a fundamental right. And I really want to applaud the host families that step up and welcome people into their home. And I want them to know that you have the circle of support behind you. And we got a message in the chat, not for me. Okay, thank you so much. So I am going to just share a couple things, and then we're going to open up the floor for any specific questions. If you want to direct them to somebody, or if it's just anybody in the panel can answer. I'm just going to share right now with host families and our buddies. Okay. So we have, if you're not familiar, we have a donations page. So for host families and for host buddies, this page is only for them. Ukrainians and the host family to post their needs. And I heard B talk about posting, I think a couple scooters or bikes on there. We can go down, we might even see B's post. Oh, I don't. So this is an open group, so anybody can join it. So please share it with your neighborhood friends. If they're looking for a way to help, they can certainly join it. And if they see a request, then they can hop on. They won't be able to post that they have anything available. They'll just have to wait to see a post requesting something. And then also, everybody, we have, whoops. Sorry, I got all kinds of things open here, as you can see. We have a Facebook page, Waterloo Region Grassroots Response to the Ukrainian Crisis. If you haven't already, please join that. Please get on Twitter. And we also have Instagram, and that's not kind of my specialty. I have a page, but I haven't been able to, I don't utilize that. But if you are, please go on and join us. I think right now we have about over 800 community members on that. And then also we have a website. And for our host buddies and our hosts, it's wrgrassrootsresponse.ca. And the first thing you'll see are these forms. So this is how we match, not match, when we connect with Ukrainians coming to Canada, they fill out this form, and we have a Ukrainian buddy team that talks to them, sees where they're at, makes sure it's legitimate. They're not asking for money. We don't do that. And then just walks alongside them. And so we have a new process for matching. We have hosts on the call. You may have seen an email today where you have access to Ukrainians that are connected with our buddies, Ukrainian buddies, and you can see if there's somebody in there you're interested. I won't go into too much detail about that process. It is something new that was just launched this morning. But you'll see requests for resources. So hosts can, that you can request food, donations, information, transportation. It's a great resource document. And then just this one called Ukrainian Resources in the Region of Waterloo. Just to have a look at that. It just is really a compilation of everybody's experience. If you want to know how to sign up for school, if you want to know where to go for OHIP, it's just, it's kind of a mishmash sheet. I'd like to see it a little more organized. Maybe that'll be something I'll work on, but there's definitely a lot of information there. And this just the page ourselves. If you want to volunteer, I would ask anybody that's on this call that isn't already signed up on our volunteer sheet. That will have to be your first step before we go forward. Or if you want to help with housing or know somebody who wants to help with housing or be a host buddy, they can click on this, I want to help with housing. And then all of our upcoming events. So you'll see Friday, May 6th is our next. We have weekly public meetings every week. We're sharing updates. We started, this actually is an anniversary meeting. We started, I think, May 6th. Stephanie, if you're on the call. So Friday, May 6th is our anniversary for Waterloo Region Grassroots. Yeah, so just wanted to share that. I'll stop now. It's 4:39. I am going to open up the floor to some questions. Oh, I see, Stephanie, if you look in the chat, you can see that there is Facebook group. Stephanie has posted that. And that's Bev is somebody who has been collecting donations. And so if you are looking for specific donations, you can go to that Facebook page as well. And then Heidi said that she did post on the donations group for us and received donations from that group. That's really good to hear. And okay, so I'm going to open it for questions. Do we have anybody that has anything specific about host, what it would be like to be a host buddy, or what is it like to host? Like, now is the time. We've got a lot of people on this call that could help. Okay, I see Heidi, your hand is up, so I'm going to get you to go ahead.
I was just wondering, so if you need transportation for your family to get somewhere, like I think mine are going to need transportation to get their SIN numbers. Did we post about that in the donations group, or do we? ask someone? Like, is there?
I believe that is on the resource form. I think there is an option on the resource form. I could pull it up and we could have a look. That's a really good question. We do have a lot of volunteers that do want to support with transportation if it works for them. And I do think it is in that resource form, Heidi. So if you want to check there, I apologize. I should probably know that off. And Steph, I know you're on here. So with regard to transportation, Steph, would she go to the resource form?
Actually, I just looked through the resource form and there isn't anything regarding need for transportation on the resource form. But what we have done is we are hoping that, I mean, if you're here, that means that you're, that family has a host buddy, or that Ukrainian family has a Ukrainian buddy. And so that resource form is really more for touching base initially, getting initial information regarding a need for clothing or kits. But because when you get a host family or a Ukrainian buddy, that Ukrainian buddy is supposed to be collecting more information, you're supposed to be connecting in, figuring out transportation or translation or help with schools and help with more one-on-one. So during those conversations, you'll be able to let them know that they need transportation, and that can be arranged. We have quite a few drivers, at least 30 or 40 people that want to drive, and they're pretty flexible. So I don't know necessarily what our policy is right now with driving people around. I think we still need to iron that out. But we are working out a partnership with Waterloo Taxi to drive around to some central locations. But yeah, so as for driving, I think we need to still figure out the logistics of safety for host and the drivers, and what would that look like.
Thank you, Steph. Yeah, that's a really good point. All right, and I see that Kathy and Mark, you have your hand up. Do you want to go ahead?
Just a quick comment for B. We have a really good bicycle that we currently have on Facebook Marketplace for sale, but we'd be happy to donate it. Depending on the size of the child, it should probably work perfectly.
Okay, so it's for a 7-year-old. We got one bike that's for the 9-year-old. So do you think that would be the right size?
Might be a little, depending on the height, it might be a little too big.
Okay.
Okay.
It probably, if you think so, would be a little big, I think.
Yeah.
But you'll find somebody will have one a little bit smaller.
Isaiah put in the chat that the bike recycling spot is open by appointment. So if anybody's.
Yeah, and we just took a screen print of that, so we'll reach out.
Great.
That's perfect. And just letting also anybody interested in being a host buddy, you know, we are envisioning it to be a weekly or bi-weekly check-in at first. But again, that's going to develop however you see it developing. Like Isaiah said, you know, forming relationships. And then if there's anything that you're unsure of, I really do, you know, that's what I'm here for. You can let myself or Brenda, if you want to escalate, maybe there's a concern or there's a gap that you've identified, you know, don't take that on yourself. And we don't expect you know, to do anything other than being, you know, somebody, an ear to talk to or to share some of our resources.
Kristen has a question.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. So my question, I guess you sort of just answered it. I posted as you were giving that. So I actually live in Stratford, but I work in the city of Waterloo. So I'm kind of remote half-time and a few days a week in. So, I mean, as far as buddying, you know, voice calls, I know what resources there are in the region because I work for a municipality there. So happy to help as a buddy, but if I need to physically be there would be my question. I'm not always in Waterloo.
Yeah, I'm not envisioning that now. And, you know, depending how it goes, Kristen, like maybe a family might have a couple buddies, we'll see, because we also do have families, and I think B and maybe Mal are good examples where they already have a circle of support around them. It's not to say we're not going to check in and see how it's going, but So yeah, definitely, you know, we don't want anybody to do something outside of what they're actually able to do. That's what we want. We're relying on each other and leaning on each other so that this is a pretty, I'm going to say easy. That's probably not the greatest word, but, and meaningful for sure. I see Stephanie has mentioned a bike. So Kath and Mark, it sounds like that bike might be good for Stephanie and Chuck. They have three, it looks like 4 kids in their home. So I don't know if you wanted to put an email in there so you guys can reach out. Okay, so Ann Kelly, go ahead. We haven't heard from you. Go ahead, Ann.
Okay, actually, sorry, that's my Facebook name, but I actually go by Kelly, so you can just, I can use whatever. I'll respond to both, but
okay, Kelly.
I'm just trying to load my hand. Anyway, this is amazing. I'm so impressed on how all the work that everybody's put together, and I really appreciate too the comments about like being clear about what you can offer, because that was a little bit of my worry. I'm like, I don't know how much that the half hour I think was proposed to me, and I thought, okay, that I'm pretty sure I can do. But like, and I like the concept of developing friendships. I know in the past, many years ago, I had done that with the family, and I thought that was really enriching for, I think, for both of us. But I just wondered about proximity, like when you're being assigned, and I do like wrap around. It's nice to have more host buddies if possible, because I have heard about some other friends who sponsored like Syrian families, and they talked about the success of some of those families was what they noticed is some of the families who had more host buddies did much better. And had more success. But so I was just wondering about proximity, but it's nice. I know some of us are in Wilmot. I don't know if everybody is, but it would be nice if, and I think it'll probably depend on where the houses are, but it'd be nice to sort of accommodate that to make it easier to develop some of those relationships, that if it's close proximity.
Yeah, absolutely. Really great point, Kelly. I attended a meeting, a refugee meeting, and one of the people spoke about the circle of support and how everybody that supported her, it was almost like a circle around her house. They lived within that proximity, and that's why it was successful. Because even for the refugee family, even going out for walks in the neighborhood, they actually knew people. So it just made them feel even more comfortable that way. So I will say this is the first meeting of the host buddies. This idea just started developing, just over a week and a half ago, when we realized, okay, they're coming and this isn't something we really thought about. So I am going to ask everybody on this call who is interested in becoming a host buddy. I know a lot of you just wanted to see what it was about. So if this is something you want to explore, I'm going to ask you to reach out to me, or the connection, I think, was Connie. And you're going to reach out and just express your interest. We want to make sure that you filled out the volunteer form. And then within that, we'll find out where you live. And I would like to see if we can navigate that to make it a circle of support. But again, this is something that's just developing. I am open to suggestions, especially there's so much experience in this group. So thank you so much. I hope that helped a bit. I want to go to Heidi. Do you have any questions for our panel?
Yeah, so just about the housing buddy, you and I had communicated a little bit. Like, I think I maybe had emailed and asked something, but who is my housing buddy? Or is there one? I'm not sure. That you had CC'd someone, Brenda, on that email. And so I don't know, is that my housing buddy or?
Well, so like I said, this is just something that we're starting. So basically, I have been the housing buddy for the 13 people that we have that have registered. So it hasn't been daunting. There's been some questions that have come up and I've had to, search for answers or find answers. But I think as we're getting more families coming, there are 40 expected by the end of June. I'll just correct that date. By the end of June, we're expecting 40 families and more Ukrainian families coming. And so we're also looking for more host families as well. So if you know anybody that wants to host, please send them to our website. Okay, Lorraine, did you have a question?
Yeah, as I've read a couple of these resumes, that people, Ukrainians have expressed, wishes to work while they're here, which suggests need of transportation every day of the working week, assuming that they get a placement. So I'm just wondering if there's been any approach to Grand River Transit about, transit passes for situations like that.
Yeah, I mean, great question. I don't know. That is another team's mandate. That is not ours. If you have a connection though, if anybody on this call has a connection to Grand River Transit and wants to make the call, I'm sure our resource team would love your help. But it's a good idea. Like Steph said, we are looking at Waterloo Taxi, partnering with them for like drives to Service Ontario, to the medical appointments, to the hospital, like giving them 4 main locations that Ukrainians may go and need a ride. So.
Yeah, but for an every single day, I'm sure that we wouldn't be able to any extent to tap into Waterloo Taxi for something like that.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, absolutely, Lorraine. I think what you're suggesting is great. It's not, I mean, maybe a housing buddy could help them. Maybe that's one of the roles of the housing buddy, is helping them, with transit. Isaiah, do you have any, because you would have experience with that. Is there any advice you can give about the transportation piece?
With the caveat that Open Homes hosts are all Kitchener-Waterloo folks. So I don't know if you have hosts out in Wilmot or Wellesley or things like that. So that hasn't been our experience. But for the most part, they use Grand River Transit. Once they get a job, they can sometimes get a car, that kind of thing. So that hasn't really been an issue. The only issue is once the guest first arrives, just helping them, orienting them to like the transit system, saying like, hey, like here are the bus routes. This is the best route to take to get to X, Y, and Z, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Lisa, Kristen mentioned she has contacts in the region if we'd like her to talk to someone there.
All right, so Kristen, I think that's great. What I'll do is I'll put you through to our partnerships, and then you can carry on that conversation. I would say yes, go for it, but I don't want to, unless somebody's already talked to them, I certainly don't want to overstep. Thank you for saying that, Kristen. And
yeah, connect me to whoever and I can talk to them and see where they're at. Otherwise, I can use my contacts and see, maybe they'll give a few weeks free pass until, then they would have them available or something. Who knows?
That's awesome. So Kristen, are you on our housing list? Or
I'm on both lists as the buddy, and I'm considering, down the road, maybe after the summer.
Perfect.
Yeah,
I was just asking for so I can contact you and make sure I have your info. So I'll get that. All right. It is 4:54. Are there some more questions? Any questions for any of our hosts? Do any of our hosts have any last words of advice?
I want to bring something up.
Okay, go ahead, Helen.
Something that came as a suggestion from a friend for temporary housing was the universities have dorms and residences that are available actually very shortly, because the students are all leaving for their summer vacation or away from school. And so I sent an email Friday. I don't expect I'll have an answer on the weekend, because I'm sure the minister, Jill Dunlop of Colleges and Universities. I wanted to see if they might offer some suggestions. If there isn't a host family available right away, that at least it's in a place where there is transit, there is maybe perhaps a couple of families that could stay. And I'm crossing my fingers, hoping that between some of our members of parliament and people who we elect to advise us. I mean, they've done a great job of everything except housing. And that's unfortunately the first piece that they really need. They need a place to stay. So I am so thrilled to see so many people hosting. I recently also saw there was a Facebook site where people could post a very general description of where they are. And I think I saw one from North Bay saying, and they have the picture of the bay there as also an alternative to housing people that are a little bit maybe not part of a group like what you've created here, which is a great group. It just like Thunder Bay and North Bay, I saw both of those listed as well. So I was kind of excited to see that. Lisa, I will try and hook you up with the actual Facebook page that it was just by chance I found it. So it has a remarkably similar name with a grassroots in it as well. So
Okay, well, thank you. Yeah, thank you. And I mean, there are very many Facebook pages. And I know Stephanie is also actively reaching out and kind of sharing resources, right? And
there's one more chat, Lisa. Anne Woolner is looking for some support. Her family is arriving on the 18th, but they're leaving on a camping trip on the 19th. So I don't know if Anne has a host buddy.
For sure. And like after this meeting, I mean, once I get all the names of people who have said they're interested and kind of get their addresses, I would like to hook people up.
Okay, good.
And if you don't hear from me, if people don't hear from me, and feel free to email Waterloo Region Grassroots to reach out if I haven't reached back to you. I also see that James and Teresa, absolutely, you can share your stuff with Heidi. What I'm going to do is, James and Teresa, have you completed our volunteer intake form?
Hi there. Yes, I believe we have.
Okay,
Right.
perfect. And were you invited through Connie?
Who sent us this email?
Yes.
Yeah, it was Connie.
Perfect. So if you don't mind just letting Connie know that you're in, and then you can give them Heidi Spruill's name. And Heidi, it looks like you're happy with that too. So I'm gonna put you two together on my list. That's great.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. Oh, perfect. Steve Morris, Steve and Kathy. Yes, you will be a host buddy. I see that. That's perfect. So I'm just going to remind everybody, just let me know, give me the green light if you're going to be a host buddy. I imagine there'll be 1 or 2 families we'd like to probably assign you with, depending how many we have.
Yeah, Monica's asking to be a host buddy too.
Isaiah, I don't know if you wanted to say that, or do you want to hold off? I know Isaiah, would you like to hold off with that?
Well, I'll just say this quickly. I hadn't thought about the transportation thing. Open Homes has been a bit dormant during the pandemic, so it's been a couple of years. But I remembered that as a community, at least for the first couple of years of Open Homes, we actually had a bunch of bus tickets as a community we made available for guests for the first couple of weeks. After the first couple of weeks, because of Ontario Works and that kind of thing, people were able to access transportation, but we were able to step into that gap in the emergency time for the first couple of weeks. So that's what we did.
It's a good idea to ask people to donate tickets.
Yeah,
that's a good idea.
Maybe the host buddies, we could all do a fundraiser of some sort for bus tickets. Who knows? Like, I really just want us to stay open to the possibilities. Don't have any expectations, just take it as it comes. And again, any issues at all or any questions, just reach out to me. I have a team that I work with as well, and we're all in this together. Let's see, I see. Oh, thank you. Everybody's putting, because the chat will be saved, so I can look back and see who said they would be a buddy. I'm not seeing any more questions for me.
We just have one, Lisa.
Yes, go ahead.
Kath noticed there was a family in need right away that are in the Waterloo region. In Cambridge. We're in Cambridge. We have availability to take them right away if needed. I don't know if you, I don't know if you want to connect with Catherine after.
Is this-
What's that?
Is this regarding the list that came out today?
Correct.
Okay, so you'll need to click on the Ukrainian buddy.
Okay, will do.
Oh,
Okay.
okay, and then if you become matched, I should find out, but I certainly appreciate an email with any details. That would really help. I do prefer email communication, or I like to text. I know there's so many platforms, but that's the one I'm best at.
And then just one other point, with having all the Ukrainian families coming, and they're from various parts of Ukraine, I would imagine, and then they're going to be in various parts of the region. We have the luxury of a large event house near our property that we could, I don't know, down the road, like in July or June or July, host an event where we could get families, host families and Ukrainian families together. So at least they start meeting each other, that type of thing as well.
Oh, I love those ideas. I know Stephanie is reminding me we have a fundraising and events team, and that's perfect. But that doesn't mean we can go ahead and just bring those teams along with us with some of our ideas. And we just want to make sure we're all talking and walking together. So if there's, are there any more questions? I see that it is 5:02. Oh, okay. So we're looking at Lorraine and Anne. They could maybe talk together. So I will hook everybody up. That looks like paperwork for after. I just want to make sure if you had any questions for our hosts or for Isaiah right now that you have the opportunity to ask. I will send out again that form, Isaiah. We'll put it in we have a newsletter coming out on Tuesday, Isaiah. So we'll get the link to that in that newsletter. That's one of my jobs tonight. So anyway, I don't think that there's anything more. I am going to stay on the call though. If there's people that do want to stay on, I will stop recording. And thank you again. And if you're interested, put in the chat or send an email, and just keep posted, keep following our social medias. And thank you again. Thank you so much.